Hello and welcome to our 2022 Regional Finals for East Anglia. We're really excited to be here live from the F1 in Schools HQ at the Brighouse factory. So if you hear any loud bangs and big noises or machinery, then that's because we're live and there's all kinds of manufacturing happening in the background. We're really excited to have you guys here today to celebrate all the hard work that you've done. I hope you're as excited as we are. So in the studio today, we're very lucky to have Amy, Nelson and Lawrence. Give everybody a wave. Excellent stuff. So we're going to move across now and see what we've got in the show. So we're going to meet the teams first and then we're going to get a message of support from our partner Autodesk before we move into the most exciting part of the show. Entry class racing, development class racing, and finally finishing with our professional class racing. But before we get to all that, we're going to have a quick look at what F1 in Schools is. So let's have a look.
What is F1 in Schools?
F1 in Schools is a global STEM challenge, working with industry partners to provide an exciting and challenging educational experience. A group of 3 to 6 students form a team, think of a name, allocate job roles, and start to design their miniature Formula One car of the future. The teams follow a systematic engineering design process to manufacture and race their cars, making sure they comply with a comprehensive set of technical regulations. To do this, they use professional CAD software, like Autodesk Fusion 360, and manufacture their car components using CNC machines. Once the cars are painted and assembled, they take to the track to race. Powered by compressed gas along a 20-metre racetrack, the cars are capable of speeds over 75 kilometers per hour. The racing is fast and exciting, but there is more to the challenge, as it inspires learning not only in STEM subjects, but wider skills including project management, marketing, teamwork, innovation and communication. These wider skills are assessed by judges from education and industry. At competitions, the teams submit their cars and portfolios and also give a project presentation. F1 in Schools operates globally from ages 9 to 19, with teams taking part in school, regional and national level competitions. With the winners progressing at each stage, only the very best make it through to the World Finals. F1 in Schools is a life-changing experience for all involved, with many success stories of competitors who've come through F1 in Schools and have gone on to achieve significant outcomes in their lives. For some, that means working in Formula One, where the experience of F1 in Schools serves as the ideal grounding for the challenges and demands of elite-level competition.
There's so many opportunities, as you can see, from entering into the F1 in Schools competition, whether it's networking with other teams or achieving work experience with F1 teams. There's so much stuff to offer and everything in between. So make sure you keep competing, make sure you come back next season, and obviously good luck today with your racing. Just don't forget that tomorrow your award show is going to be coming out live, where you'll see what awards have been won by each team and also who has made it to the national finals, which we're happy to announce are live in person from Autosport International in January 2023. Exciting times, Nelson, to be back in person.
Definitely. I mean, we are all looking forward to receive the students again. We are tired, a little bit tired from doing automatic races. We need to see the students again with those triggers doing amazing reaction times.
Absolutely, of course we do. So let's find out who you are competing against today in this regional final. So on the grid, we've got the entry class teams, followed by our development class teams, and finally our 2 professional class teams. So some of our teams have sent in some introduction videos, so thank you very much for doing that. Let's check them out now.
Hi, we're Venti Racing.
Hi, we're Speed Demons.
We are Team Moxie.
We are Team Barracudas.
We are the Vipers.
We are Team Hack.
Hello, we're Team Superari.
We are Yukio.
We're Team Aurora.
We are Revolution Racing.
We are Team Altitude.
Some absolutely amazing videos there from our teams and some interesting sounds in the studio as well. Thank you very much for sending those videos in. It's great to see as many teams as possible introducing themselves, and it also helps us in the studio reading out your names because you're not in person to find out what they are. So if we do get some wrong, which we do in every single region, please bear with us and make sure you comment alongside this live stream and let us know how we are performing. So we are going to move on. We're just going to check out some words of wisdom from Autodesk's Matthew Bell and a few words wishing you well throughout your racing show. So let's head over and see what Matthew Bell's got to say.
Hi everybody, my name is Matthew Bell and I'm very fortunate to look after Autodesk's secondary education initiatives here in the UK. Autodesk are incredibly proud to be the official CAD and CFD partner for Formula One in schools, giving you all access to the very latest in industry-leading software such as Fusion 360 to help to design, visualize, analyze and manufacture your Formula One in schools race car. Formula One in schools is an amazing way for you to get a taster into a potential future career in STEM. It gives you the opportunity to sample so many different areas within the industry and hopefully will inspire you to take the next step and look for further qualifications in STEM and the possibility of one day working in the field. And how amazing will it be to one day see a number of you working in Formula One? It just leaves me to say a huge thank you to everybody for taking part in the competition. We hope you enjoy it, have amazing fun, learn so many new skills, and come back next year. So, from everybody here at Autodesk, good luck, have fun, and enjoy the experience.
Thanks very much. There some great words from Matthew Bell, wishing you all luck and talking about STEM careers. Make sure you do keep competing, make sure you take the most of any opportunity that's thrown your way and really chuck yourselves into the competition. So before we get to start racing, we're going to have a look at the format of the racing and see how it works, because as Nelson's already mentioned, we are in the automatic racing mode. We're not doing the reaction time. So over to you to explain how we race, Nelson.
Sure thing, Tom. So this is what's going to happen. Every car is going to race 4 times, and they're going to race twice in each lane. So the lowest team number starts in lane 1, and there's a lane swap after race 2. This is to create so no one to complain that one lane is faster than the other one, so they race twice in each lane. There is no reaction times, unfortunately, because we don't have the team, so it's all automatic racing, and all breakages are fixed by F1 and school staff. And most important of all, only the fastest compliant car can win.
Great stuff. Thanks for that, Nelson. So let's go racing. The most exciting part and why you are watching now and the hard work that you have put into your cars. You're about to find out how they perform racing on our track. But it's really important to remember it's not just about the racing, is it, Amy? There's other elements that make up part of the competition. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. There's so many parts that kind of make up the competition. So you've got the verbal presentation, the portfolios that you do, and obviously these change between which classes you kind of enter. But the professional class has the most to do with a lot of documents, portfolios, verbal presentation, pit displays. There's a lot that goes into it. But Nelson will probably be better to talk to us about how the classes differ and kind of what entry class does and how development is different.
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, in terms of document submission, they vary quite a bit because entry class is supposed to be an easier level of entry. But on the technical side, it's quite interesting. Let's start with weight. On entry class, there's a minimum limit of 65 grams, while in development class, it is 60 grams. While we get to pro, it's 50 grams. So super exciting because they can make really, really fast cars. Now, both entry and development class have a no-go zone, so that means that the teams cannot cut into those specific areas. Entry class is very flexible, actually, because the students can actually manufacture their car just hand carving it. fully 3D printing it or CNC machining it, while in development class you can only use a CNC machine to manufacture your car. Both classes, development and entry, need to use the standard wheels, standard axles and standard axle guides, but when you get to pro class, it's all in. No fences, you can do whatever you want to your car.
Well, thanks for that great information, Nelson. So entry class teams, just be ready to get over those fences, jump those hurdles so that you can come back next season as a development class team. Over to you, Amy, to introduce the first two teams for me, please.
So the first two cars that we're going to see on track today are Venti Racing and the Vipers. Look at that paint job on the Vipers car, amazing. It's
great, isn't it? It looks really cool. Looks like an artist's work there. And a great looking car as well, Venti Racing, as you can see. Lawrence, over to you for the first time. Can you give us some stats, please?
I mean, these are both fantastic cars. We've got the Vipers, and they're almost snake-like in that it's such a narrow, elongated car, barely, the side pods are barely there. But with the Venti car, they've got so many little aerodynamic elements. So they've covered both the front and rear wheels there, and for that, they're just trying to capture that turbulence so it doesn't affect the rest of the aerodynamic performance of their car. The Vipers, with just that physically smaller car, have got a lighter car, and I think that might make a difference, but let's go to the racing.
Let's get to the racing and find out. We're really excited for our first race of this region. Let's head out on track for race number 1.
Right, race number 1, in lane 1, Venti Racing, and in lane 2, the Vipers.
And the Vipers take that with a 1.421, Venti Racing a little bit slower with 1.835.
Well, fantastic first race, logging some really good times there at the start. 1.4s and 1.8s, really nice to see that, and we're going to be hopefully seeing some really consistent times because that's a really important part of the competition, isn't it, Nelson?
Yes, it is. And you know, let me say that we shouldn't have personal opinions, but the Venti car is actually one of my favorite designs of the entire regionals. I don't know if it's legal, but I absolutely love it.
Great stuff. Thanks for that, Nelson. But we love all the other teams as well, and Nelson does love all the other teams.
All of you guys. All of love everyone.
Great stuff. Right, well, we're already on track to head out and check out race number 2.
So Venti Racing in lane 1 again, and the Vipers in lane 2.
And the Vipers take that one again with a 1.443. Venti Racing being consistent with a 1.870.
Great stuff again. They are really consistent teams, and that's really helpful because it's not just about being the fastest car on track. So if we were live in person, the teams will now be changing lanes, Nelson. Can you explain what we would normally be seeing if we were here in person?
Yeah, so the track judges will be just removing the tether line through the tether line guides very carefully, slotting them into a different car for the cars to be able to swap lanes, getting new canisters in from our temperature control fridge, and basically the cars are ready to go for another run.
Excellent. Well, after that beautiful explanation, we can see now we're ready for race number 3.
Now race number 3 with the Vipers now in lane 1 and Venti Racing in lane 2.
And the Vipers finished the third race in first with a 1.448. Venti Racing going a little bit slower with a 1.954.
Great stuff from both teams. Again, really consistent times from both teams there. So we can head out on track. We'll just mention Amy and Max, who are our track team. They've been running up and down for all of our regional competitions, bringing the cars back, loading those canisters and ensuring that we can be live here from the studio, trying to make this show as slick as possible for you guys whilst you're watching at home. So let's head out and check out race number 4.
Race number 4 with the Vipers in lane 1 and Venti Racing in lane 2.
And that makes it a full house for the Vipers with a 1.419. Venti Racing going with a 1.878.
Great stuff, very consistent from both teams. So let's check out our leaderboard for the very first time in this region. So there we have it, the Vipers in place number 1 with the 1.419, and in place number 2 we've got Venti Racing with that 1.835. So pretty tight leaderboard, which is good to see. You'll notice there at the bottom of the table an asterisk that says team under investigation for technical regulations. Neither of our teams have an asterisk, so it doesn't apply to them. But Nelson, what does that mean?
Yeah, I wish we could have a bigger font on screen, but what it means is that the teams are under investigation because they could have broken a specific regulation that will take them out of a specific award, like fastest car or best engineering award. But it doesn't take them out of the first place.
Fantastic, great stuff. Thanks for explaining that, Nelson. So look out for that. If an asterisk appears next to your team, that means you are under investigation. Amy, would you like to introduce the next 2 teams, please?
Sure will, Tom. The next 2 cars that are on track are the Speed Demons and the Flaming Arrows.
Oh, and we see that colour scheme yet again, green on black. That is Amy's favourite colour scheme, and the reason for that is, Amy?
It's because my team was green and black, Tom.
Love that, absolutely love it. Speed Demons there with a load of different colours, looking absolutely fantastic, quite space age, if you don't mind me saying. But if you do, stick it in the comments on this live stream. Lawrence, over to you. Pull out some stats for us, please.
I mean, the Flaming Arrows car, it is long and pointy. It's a very low car too, so they're preventing any air getting under the car, but that will stop lift being generated under the car, essentially. We've got a very small front wing there. That shouldn't create too much drag. When on the opposite side, we have the Speed Demons, which is a very angular car. We can see the front of their canister chamber comes to a nice point. They've definitely really succeeded, both of these teams, in like the machining and manufacture of their car, because both have a beautiful finish. Once again, we see that the Flaming Arrows do have a slightly lower weight car, which may be a very important factor. But let's get to the racing.
Let's get to the racing and find out. So, race 1, here we go.
In lane 1, Speed Demons. In lane 2, the Flaming Arrows.
And the Flaming Arrows really are absolutely scorching with a 1.491. Speed Demons very close to the 2.01.
Some great references there, Amy. I really like that description. But again, some great times being recorded there, so well done, both teams. And again, it's about that consistency. Let's see how the teams perform in their second race.
Again, Speed Demons in lane 1, Flaming Arrows in lane 2. Lights out!
And the Flaming Arrows are taking that one as well with a 1.458. Speed Demons doing well with a 2.033. I think they can get under the 2-second barrier though.
Let's hope that they do. They've got 2 more races left. We've just got to get the teams switching lanes. So, Lawrence, you have taken part in this competition in the professional class a fair few times. How did you enjoy that experience?
No, I mean, it's taking part in F1 in schools is such a fantastic experience because it's all the different elements. Like, I mean, it's so good going to the competition, which sadly, you know, these teams don't get to do it as a virtual regionals, but we're so excited to invite teams back to a physical nationals. So the networking is really exciting, and you know, that isn't actually at the just at the competition, because you do like get to communicate with so many different departments of your school, for example, because it isn't just an engineering competition. These teams have to do everything that a real Formula One team has to do, because there is the enterprise portfolio as you get into the professional class, and the verbal presentation. You know, these skills make these students very rounded and prepare them for interviews and things later in life. So, yes, it's the whole experience with F1 in schools.
Great, so thanks for that, Lawrence. Well, let's head out on track for race number 3 then.
Race number 3, now with the Flaming Arrows in lane 1 and Speed Demons in lane 2.
Flaming Arrows winning that one again with a 1.501. Speed Demons getting a little bit closer to under the 2-second barrier with a 2.064.
Really rooting for the Speed Demons. Let's see if they can get under that 2-second barrier. It'd be really nice to see. But it doesn't mean that they can't do that in future races. And as we've said before, it's not just about the racing, it's about all of the other elements too. So let's check out the final race of this pairing. Let's see what happens.
Race 4, the Flaming Arrows, Speed Demons.
And the Flaming Arrow is making it another full house with a 1.517, and Speed Demons getting that little bit closer to getting under the 2 seconds with a 2.029.
Well done there to both teams, some fantastic racing, some great times. So we're halfway through the entry class for this region, so let's check out the table. And there we have it, the Flaming Arrows. That's the first asterisk we've seen there. Have some they are under investigation, sorry, for a technical regulation somewhere in their scrutineering with a 1.458, and the Speed Demons there with a 2.010. Now, Nelson, can you just ease the teams a little bit? If you've got an asterisk there, does that mean that you can't win any awards?
No. You're up to a lot of awards. In all of we have tons of judging categories, but for racing, if you are breaking a specific regulation related to the performance of your car, you may be out of the fastest car award and best engineering award, but they are still up to winning the whole thing overall.
So you could win the whole thing. There's many of awards that you could still win. It might just be a couple of awards that you potentially are not eligible for. So, Amy, over to you to introduce our next two teams, please.
We have the next two on track, which are going to be Moxie and, I don't know if you feel like you're being laughed at, Tom, but Ha.
Yeah, I'm getting laughed at quite a lot. But these two teams look great. Another fantastic piece of artwork on that paint job for Team Ha. It's a funny looking paint job there. Lawrence, how are you feeling about these two cars?
No, I really like the way that the artwork really incorporates those 3 team colours that we can see in their logo. That's a really cool brand identity point. You know, the Moxie car it's a very simplistic design. I mean, the whole car is essentially a wedge, but that shouldn't create too much turbulence. So I think that could actually fare very well. The Ha car is it's a sleek design for sure, but it is a bit heavy. They have looked more into kind of that forming of the CO2 chamber. It's all very elongated. There are no aggressive angles there. But again, they are slightly overweight.
Slightly overweight. Let's see if that has an impact on them as they fly down the track. Let's head over for the track for race 1 then.
Race 1 in lane 1 with Moxie in lane 1 and Team Ha in lane 2.
Well, this is the only laugh you'll be getting today, Nelson. Ha with a 1.89, Moxie going a little bit faster with a 1.495.
Well, some great racing there. You know, the team's looking good. So again, we're trying to make sure we've got consistent times, or the best times as consistent as possible is what we're looking for. I notice, Lawrence, there's some quite delicate looking parts on the front wings there. Is there anything that could have an impact on as the cars go down the track?
I mean, yeah, the teams really need to be aware that the cars accelerate and hit a top speed over this 20-metre distance, and then they have around 1 metre, even slightly less, to decelerate and come back to 0 miles an hour. So there's a lot of energy dissipated when it hits the deceleration device, and therefore they've got to be really careful. You know, the regulations do tell you the height at which the deceleration device comes in. So especially when you've got some of your more delicate parts, like your front or rear wings, you want to kind of look at positioning those so they're not going to be in the line of fire. And another thing is, you know, we allude to the fastest time not being everything. So you do get points based on your fastest time in relation to other teams, but there are also points for your second and third best times. So you really need to get your car surviving through all 4 runs, being very robust.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks for that, Lawrence. Well, let's head out on track and check out the next race between this pairing.
Second race with the teams still in the same lanes.
And Moxie winning that one with a 1.401. Ha with a time of 1.717.
Brilliant stuff there. I have to say, I absolutely love the sound of the cars firing out of those start blocks. The pods make such a lovely sound. And Nelson, I think you've got a joke about these pods. Is that right?
Me? Let me think about one. Yes. Right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
What does a CO2 canister say to another CO2 canister?
I'm not sure.
Anyone?
I don't have a clue.
Ready?
And there goes the tumbleweed.
Lawrence?
But
rolling through the studio, and again,
you guys don't understand me, but the guys back home will.
The guys back home are hopefully having a fantastic laughing moment. That incredibly cringy dad joke there, Nelson. Let's hope the teams, or if you do want to steal that joke, please do share it with your friends and you know, lose some street cred. Anyway, let's crack on with the racing and let's go and check out the next race.
Still think was a good sound. Well, in lane 1 we have Ha, and in lane 2 Moxie.
And Moxie winning that one again with a 1.527. Ha getting a 1.8. Sorry.
You right there, Amy?
Yeah, sorry.
Just a mind blank there on the time, and just to confirm, that was a 1.8 for Team Ha. So well done. Both teams nice and consistent times coming out of those teams. So we've got one more race for this pairing before we go to our final round of racing for the entry class. So let's get out on track and check it out.
I wish we could go Ha on this one. So Ha in lane 1 and Moxie in lane 2. Come on, Team Ha.
I was still laughing at Nelson's joke before, that's why I messed up. But Moxie winning that one with a 1.448 and Ha going a little bit quicker with a 1.74.
Well done to Team Ha, posting a good time at the end there. And Moxie really consistent across the 4 races. Well, let's check out how that's affected our leaderboard. And there we have it, Moxie in place 1. They are under investigation, but they posted that time of a 1.401. And Team Ha going into 4th position, again under investigation for technical regulations with a 1.717. So I believe we've got 1 car remaining in our final round of racing. So let's head over to see the stats of this car, please, Amy.
So the solo car racing last will be the Barracudas.
The Barracudas. It's got that wedge kind of feel to it, hasn't it, Lawrence?
Yeah, this is another quite bulky design, but actually you've seen that they've managed to keep the weight very low. I think this is because they've been mindful perhaps as to the mass that the paint might add. So we can see that they're right near that minimum weight for the entry class. I think this will be quite a fast car.
Well, let's find out if Lawrence is right. Let's head out to the track and let's find out how Barracudas performs in race 1.
Right, Team Barracudas in lane 1. If you were in Portugal, it would be Barracudas. Against no team in lane 2, and the system is just going to wait a little bit just to make sure there's no team finishing in lane 2 to give us the result.
And after that short break, we've got the Barracudas with a 1.397.
Wow, fast time. I think that might have been the fastest time of the region so far, but we'll find out at the end of their races for Team Barracudas. And obviously we've only got 1 car to pull back down. Amy's giving us the thumbs up. She's loaded the canister. Let's get out on track for race number 2.
Race number 2, still in the same lane. Barracudas. I need to think about another joke just to fill up this time while we're waiting for the result. What do you guys think?
Hopefully it hurries up.
Thanks, Amy.
Barracudas with a time of 1.458.
Great, so a little bit slower there. Lawrence, just while we're switching lanes, can you let us know what impact or what kind of things might impact on the consistency of the times throughout these races?
Yeah, so as we're going through, you know, this may very well be our first race, maybe the first time this car has raced ever. So there's the potential that some of the wheel systems are quite tight. And as we go through, they, you know, spin up, they all loosen up. And then when we see the cars getting faster throughout the racing, I think that could be the reason. Equally, especially in the entry and development classes, we may see some cars getting slower as well. And this is because, you know, when they've got their axle sitting freely in like the machined model block, it's possible that if these have like a, you know, very fast decelerations, that these holes may enlarge and then the axles might not completely sit straight anymore. And this can cause drag all the way down the track. So we can actually see teams going both ways.
Great insight and lots of things to think about when you design your cars. Thanks for that, Lawrence. Well, let's head out on track for race number 3 for Barracudas.
Race number 3, now with the team in lane 2. Lights out. Some elevator music here? No?
And there we have the Barracudas saving us from Nelson's elevator music with a 1.362.
That was worth the wait there, wasn't it, for that race, which was great, building up suspense there. So, Nelson, why might it be that there's only one team racing there at the end of this region?
Well, we only have one team racing because it's not a paired number of teams in the region, so unfortunately there's nothing we can do. It also happens in live events, a little bit heartbreaking, but it doesn't mean anything because actually they're not racing against another team. We are all just logging 4 times for every single team and then measuring them against in the leaderboard.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks for explaining that, Nelson. Let's get out onto race number 4 then, please.
Race number 4, final race for the Barracudas. Come on, Barracudas. Will this be their best time, Amy? Maybe, maybe not. Here we go.
Unfortunately, not as quick as before. Commentators curse from Nelson with a 1.429.
Great racing from Team Barracudas there, posting a couple of really good times. So let's check out the leaderboard and see if my knowledge was correct. And it was. Team Barracudas there in position 1 with a 1.362, the only team in the entry class for this region to go under 1.4 seconds. And they have a clean bill of health, so well done to the Barracudas there, very impressive. Very impressive racing from all of our teams, well done. Don't forget, you need to check out the award show tomorrow to see what awards you may have won and to see who wins the overall prize and how the other teams do in the development class and professional class and who makes it through to our national finals in January. So well done to our entry class teams. It's now time to move on to the development class. What are the main differences in the development class from an engineering point of view, Lawrence?
So as we move from entry to development class, teams are no longer allowed to make the main body of their car out of essentially anything they like. So when previously you could have it 3D printed, hand carved or milled, we now require a body CNC milled from the F1 in Schools model block for the development class. There are still the mandatory wheels, which are the same across all entrants, but the minimum weight also drops from 65 to 60 grams, so we should see the times increasing a bit with that and also with the experience of the teams as they progress from entry to development class.
Great stuff. Well, we're hoping for some really exciting racing then and some much faster times, but let's see how the cars have been developed. And over to you, Amy, to introduce our first 2 cars.
So the first 2 cars that will be taking the track today are Superari and Sandy Air Racers.
Superari and Sandy Air Racers, 2 two-tone cars here that look very similar but are from completely different schools. It's really interesting to see. Lawrence, what are your views here?
So these cars in their profiles are actually quite similar, but we do see that the Sandy Air Racers do have a longer car and a more elongated profile that's kind of less aggressive as it presents itself to the air. So I'd expect that car to perhaps have a little less aerodynamic drag. But the Superari, you see actually its front wing goes to the full width of the front wheels and from a front view covers them, I believe, up to the maximum height, which should really reduce the drag around those front wheels. So it'll be very interesting to see how these face up against each other. The Sandy Air Racers, for quite a diminutive physically car, apart from its length, it's very long and thin. It is quite heavy, which I don't know quite how they've achieved that, but it'll still be an interesting matchup.
Well, great stuff. Let's see what happens then. Let's move on to the first race.
First race, lane 1, Superari, and lane 2, Sandy Air Racers.
And that's a win for Superari with a 1.26, so a lot quicker than we had in the entry class. Sandy Air Racers currently with a 2.068.
So yeah, the weight of that car there clearly slowing it down a little bit for Sandy Air racers, but the beautiful thing about F1 in schools is you can come back next year and you can make improvements. But remember, as with the entry class, it's not just about the racing, it's about all of the other elements too that make up your full score. So we're ready on track. There's a thumbs up from Max. Let's head out for the second race.
Second race with the team still in the same lanes. Lights out.
Superari winning that race with a 1.266, Sandy Air Racers with a 2.20.
Great racing again. It's nice to see that Sandy Air Racers are getting consistent times down the track. What are the sort of main reasons why you'd get a consistent time on the track, Lawrence?
I mean, that's really credit to those two teams having very consistent times, because that means that as they've built the cars, you know, they do have that very good build quality that allows them not to be damaged. They've had those considerate designs for manufacturing, you know, the solid build. Yeah. If we see them tailing off, you know, that'll often be the effect of damage, either minor through the axles, like coming in out of alignment, or maybe there will have been some damage that has had to be repaired. And, you know, if your car does have to be repaired, the parts won't necessarily be exactly where you designed them to be. And if, you know, any adhesive has to be used, the car may also gain a little bit of weight. So ideally, you need to design those cars to be as robust as possible.
Thanks for that, Lawrence. Well, let's head over for race 3.
Right, so in lane 1 now we have Sandy Air Racers and Superari in lane 2.
And Superari going very quick there with a 1.293. Sandy Air Racers still in the 2 seconds with a 2.078.
Great stuff. Really, really good times again and really consistent as we mentioned before. So the cars are being pulled back and the canisters are being loaded. So let's check out the next, or the fourth and final race of this pairing.
Race 4, still in the same lanes.
And that makes it a full house for Superari with a 1.294. Sandy Air Racers posting a 2.069.
Well, let's check out the leaderboard for the first time in this development class, see how the teams have done. And there we have it. Superari there in position 1 with a 1.260. And in position 2, we have Sandy Air Racers with that 2.068. Both teams flagged as under investigation for technical regulations. So let's move on to our second of 3 rounds of racing, and let's see our next 2 cars, please, Amy.
And the next 2 cars that are going to be taking the track are, I'm going to say Yukio Racing and Real Velocidad.
Yukio Racing and Real Velocidad. That has got Spanish vibes there, Nelson. Or Portuguese vibes, am I right or wrong?
Real Velocidad.
Real Velocidad, love that. Great colours again for you, Amy, with that green and black. We know you like that, but Yukio Racing with that pink streak right down the middle of their car. Over to you, Lawrence, for some stats, please.
Well, 2 very striking cars here, but what I'm liking seeing here is an interesting interpretation of the rules, I think. So on the front of the Yukio Racing, we can see that they have this one long planar wing, which I believe is their front wing, and then they'll have that rest of the shape, that aerodynamic form, classified as support structure. So I think that's a very interesting design. But then otherwise, you know, we've got 2 cars that are similar in dimension, as well as this having one bold colour that defines them. The weights are very similar, so I think I'm on the fence as to who will win this one.
Well, let's see who will win, and let's check out race number 1.
Race number 1 with Yukio Racing and Real Velocidad.
Yukio Racing winning that one with a 1.337 and Real Velocidad with a 1.385.
Really, really quick times there, which is good to see from both teams, so well done there. 2 good-looking designs as well moving down the track. Nice to see from that angle. Just a big shout out to Idium, who put together this show for us and for you, so we can stream live over YouTube. They set up all the cameras and make sure everything flows nice and well for us. A big shout out to John and Robin there at Idium. for putting this together. Let's get out on track then and check out the next race.
Right, still with Yukio Racing in lane 1 and Real Velocidad in lane 2.
Real Velocidad winning that one with a 1.295 and Yukio Racing posting a slower time of 1.388.
Really interesting to see a couple of different times there, see if some of the impacts, what Lawrence said earlier, is having on some of the cars potentially as they're racing each time down the track. So I think they are ready out on track to head over to race number 3.
Race number 3 now with Real Velocidad in lane 1 and Yukio Racing in lane 2.
And it's another win for Real Velocidad with a 1.288 with Yukio Racing a 1.346.
Again, really good times coming through there. Really quick, great designs. And great colours and again great angles seeing the cars going on. I hope you're enjoying this show at home, and I hope it's everything that you expected from a virtual show. So let's get out and see the final race of this pairing.
Final race, Real Velocidad, Yukio Racing. Who's going to take it?
Well, it was a close one, definitely, but Real Velocidad just winning that one more time with a 1.328. Yukio Racing posting a 1.365.
Really close last race there. Let's see what kind of impact that's had on our final leaderboard. There we go, Real Velocidad in second position, flagged as under investigation with a 1.288, and there you've got Yukio Racing also flagged for under investigation. All teams are flagged so far with a 1.337. So I think we've got one more round in this development class, so let's check out the teams, Amy.
Yeah, Tom, you'll be happy to know that wasn't the final race. We've still got Aurora Racing and Revolution Racing to go.
Yeah, my mistake. So we've got these the next two cars again, really sleek looking designs. One with a shiny finish, one with a kind of matte finish there, Lawrence. Is that going to have any impact?
So actually this is a really interesting topic because you see looking even across the Formula 1 grid that they have a mix of glossy and matte finishes on their cars. There is a school of thought that thinks that matte liveries will almost act as generate the Magnus effect, where we energize that boundary layer of air, which means it's stronger and we have more flow or reduced flow separation, in fact, across the car. So we do see that one of our cars in this race is matte and one of them is very, very glossy. That could be an advantage for Revolution Racing. Equally, the Aurora Racing car is very smooth. We've got no visible gaps between those different sections of the car that are 3D printed and milled, which is, that definitely makes a difference in terms of disturbance to the air, and it just shows what a kind of high attention to detail the team has made.
Great stuff. Right, well, let's get out on track and check out the first race.
Right, in lane 1, Aurora Racing. In lane 2, Revolution Racing.
Well, call all the F1 teams. The shiny finish looks better with Aurora Racing winning a 1.253. Revolution not too far behind with a 1.423.
Well, let's see how much difference that makes as we continue with the racing. And in person, Nelson, do you like seeing the racing in person when we're at events?
Oh yes, definitely. It's one of the most exciting bits of the competition, just the teams going head to head, especially in the knockout competition, in the national final, where it's really an elimination race, where they feel the pressure of pressing that trigger, getting a good reaction time, and actually beating the other team. Again, in the regionals, it's not about beating the team in the other lane, it's about getting those 4 good times.
Thanks very much, Nelson. Right, well, let's head out on track for the next race.
Race 2, teams still in the same lanes. Lights out!
Aurora Racing winning that one with a 1.262. Revolution Racing still posting 1.4s to the 1.444.
2 quick times there. Well done to both teams, posting those consistent times as well. Trying to get themselves as high up the leaderboard as possible. so they can finish in those top slots that we've got available. Let's see what happens as they change lanes and we move out now. Yep, that's a thumbs up from Amy. Let's get out on track for race number 3.
Race number 3, now in the different lane, Revolution Racing in lane 1, Aurora Racing in lane 2.
Bit of a strange camera angle there, but Aurora Racing winning with a 1.224, Revolution Racing with a 1.475.
Again, really consistent times from both teams, so hopefully that's going to stand them in good steads for overall points totals as we move into the award shows tomorrow when they're streamed live as well. So as I've said about 15 times, make sure you're there for the shows tomorrow. Right, let's check out the 4th and final race for these two teams.
Let's see if our cameraman has put some sense into the cameras. He hasn't. He's just a little bit distracted. But who's going to take it? Revolution Racing or Aurora Racing?
And Aurora Racing take that one a little bit slower, but still winning with a 1.332. Revolution Racing not too far behind with a 1.503.
What a great end to the development class there for our teams and the racing we've just seen. So we just need to check out how they finished on our table. And here we go, Aurora Racing in position 1 with a 1.224. Well done to Aurora Racing. They are flagged as under investigation, as are the rest of the teams in this development class. Revolution Racing, well done to you guys as well. You're there in 5th position with a 1.423. So a pretty close racing there across all teams. Well done to each of you. And as I mentioned before, make sure you're here tomorrow to check out what or how the awards are being dished out and if you have made it through to our national final. So we're going to move over in a second to the professional class cars, but I think Lawrence has got an engineering principle that he would just like to talk through and share some wisdom on.
Yeah, so in F1 in schools, where we measure the thousandths of the second in racing, attention to detail really pays off. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about an aerodynamic effect, which you can kind of utilize to reduce drag on your car. So this is the Coanda effect. And as we've got on screen, this is the phenomenon where fluid follows convex surfaces on cars, or on anything, in fact, not just cars. And we've got some examples here. So this is a very simplified front wing of a F1 in schools car, and we can see this concave surface which doesn't promote flow attachment. The airflow is made turbulent, it separates from the surface. Whereas on the other hand, if we have a convex surface, we can see that the air actually adheres to it, and you can use this to direct the air around the car as you want and also reduce turbulence.
Brilliant stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, it's such a good lesson for us all there, and something for every team to take into their next challenge. I'm sure all of the teams are already aware of the Coanda effect, but if you're not, that's something you can bring into your next portfolio or into your next design when you come back and compete in our next season and perform that little bit better than you have done this time around, hopefully. So let's move on to our final pairing. Actually, I think we've only got 2 professional class cars, so we've only got 1 set of 4 races. So Amy, what are the 2 cars?
And our 2 professional class cars racing today are Thunderbolt and Altitude.
2 really cool, stylish looking cars. I love the paint job there for Thunderbolt, and Altitude just looks incredibly neat. Over to you, Lawrence, for a few stats then, please.
Yeah, so I mean, these are actually, we can see that they're from the same school, so they may have taken a little bit of inspiration from each other. They've both got these really interesting side pods, because there are 2 concepts that you often see. One is channeling the air from the front wheels in between the rear wheels through the car, and this instead, we have this little channel that sends the air from the front wheels actually aggressively outwards so that it should avoid the rear wheels. So this is featured on both cars. Both have quite a square rear wing. I'd love to talk to the team Thunderbolt about why they've got that little dip in the center of the rear wing. I'm sure there's some very good justification for that. I'm excited to see these go to head. I'm sure these students are very competitive, and there are a lot of playground bragging rights up for grabs here.
Absolutely, I'm sure there are. Well, let's get out on track and find out who's going to have those bragging rights. Let's get over to race number 1.
Race number 1 with Thunderbolt in lane 1 and Team Altitude in lane 2.
And that's a very narrow win for Altitude, the 1.314. Thunderbolt very close behind with a 1.394.
Great times there, so we're hoping that we can see some improvement. What is it that they can improve on? What's the difference in the wheel structure or the wheel systems, Nelson, that helps the teams hopefully post some faster times?
Well, in professional class, it's their first opportunity to use bearings. So there are all kind of bearings: ceramic bearings, magnetic bearings, hybrid bearings. You guys will probably know more bearings than me. But so the teams make their choice. They try to align it very well with special axles, carbon fiber or aluminium or whatever they want to use, but pretty advanced stuff.
Absolutely, it is really advanced and very exciting. So let's get on track and see the next race.
So still in the same lanes, Thunderbolt and Altitude.
Altitude posting a much quicker time that time round with a 1.218. Thunderbolt with a 1.483.
Yeah, I wonder if their elevated wing is having any difference, Lawrence. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to do something I often do on these shows, and that is completely ignore the question that you've just asked me and talk about something else. Because we did just talk about the wheels a second ago there, and it would appear that both of these teams, while they are in the professional class and able to use whichever wheels they like, it does appear that they've chosen to use the development and entry class wheels. And as the only 2 cars in this class, it won't, I'd say, affect them at the regionals, but the thing that I'd be really looking at if I were either of those teams for wherever they go next is looking at designing some of their own wheels, using some bearings, because these are a real performance differentiator.
Great, thanks for that, Lawrence. Much better insight than my question, obviously, and yeah, hopefully our teams can take that on board should they make it through to our national finals. So let's head out on track. There's been a lane swap, and let's see how the 2 cars perform.
Now in different lanes, lane 1 Altitude and lane 2 Thunderbolt.
Well, Altitude won that one as well with a 1.267. Thunderbolt not very far behind with a 1.39.
Well done to both teams there again, posting those consistent teams. So they've clearly consistent times, sorry, not teams. They've clearly got some good construction going on, and they've got really robust cars. So we've got our final race now of this region. Let's get out on track and find out what happens.
So teams in the same lane again, Altitude and Thunderbolt.
And it looks like Altitude's won this competition between the schools with a 1.258. Thunderbolt posting a very respectable 1.347.
Oh, excellent stuff, brilliant stuff. Nice to have a competition between 2 teams from the same school there to round off the day's racing. So let's go to the leaderboard. We know how it's going to look. There's Altitude there in position 1 with that 1.218, a great time, and Thunderbolt in position 2 with a 1.347. Both teams under investigation. So let's see the final leaderboard, and let's see all the classes mixed in together, see how our teams have done. Here we go. So you can see there that Altitude obviously at the top of the table, but some of our development teams, Aurora Racing and Super Ari, really sort of breaking it up to the top and getting close to that Pro Class. Probably a sign that you're ready to move on and to get into the Pro Class next season with your cars and the development you've got. And also just highlight the Barracudas and Moxie both getting into the top 8 out of 15 teams from an entry class point of view, beating some other development teams. So again, lots of our entry teams ready to get into the development class and to move up in next season's competition, which registrations are open. So nag your teachers and get them to register you ready for the 22-23 season, when the regionals happening in March and April next year. So just want to say a massive well done and thank you to all of the students for all of the work that you've put in. It's absolutely astounding as ever to see the variations and the level of work that you've put into these cars and into your portfolios and verbal presentations. And we're really excited to celebrate that tomorrow in our award show. I'd also like to thank your teachers for supporting you through the process and giving you all the knowledge and skills and access to their time to be able to compete in the competition. So thanks for all the teachers too. And finally, an absolutely massive thank you to Lawrence for sharing all of your wisdom, to Nelson and Amy for sharing your thoughts and wisdom as well. And for myself, Tom, we're really happy to say thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow for the award show. Well done to everybody.